Hello, everybody. You've met us before. I'm Peter, and with me I've got Sylvia,
Hello.
and we talk about things of interest. We hope, we think, to do with mental health and well-being. And the topic we've chosen to spend some time on today is exactly that. It's time, and we want you to take time watching this video and tell us afterwards what you think.
Hmm.
So, time is a funny concept. I know someone who will be out of sync, he claims, for the next 6 months because he feels he gets out of sync because of the summertime.
Hmm.
So we move the clock forward by 1 hour, and he can't figure out life for 6 months. Now, to me, it's just I had 1 hour less sleep that night, and that's it. That happens at other times of the year anyway. But time is something we value. But time, you have courses on time management, don't you, Sylvia?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. But I think that's a misnomer because you can only manage yourself. Whatever we do, time runs at the time runs. We all have the same 24 hours.
Hmm.
It's just up to us to decide what we do with it.
Hmm.
And we measure time as something important. A lot of people measure their own importance in how unavailable they are, how little time they've got. Then there's something called me time, there's quality time, there's tea time, there's
Hmm.
any number of times. So, why is this concept of time so important to us?
Oh goodness, Peter.
Hmm.
Where do we start and how do we talk about time in such little time for our conversations?
Yes, because I am keeping time.
Yes. Yeah. What was interesting there when you said about how people can manage or portray how important they are by how less time they have available. And that's an interesting concept because I remember when I was in banking, it was, oh, we need to speak to, X or Y. Oh, but they're always busy. You can't get a time slot in their diary. Goodness, they're so important. You can't, you really like struggle to get an appointment with them. So it's interesting that concept. I hadn't thought of that before. Um, so that's one thing, so perhaps for the audience to think about. Is it, do we think that someone is really important because we can't get a spot in their diary? And does that person think they're super important because their diary is full? So that's a really interesting concept. But as you say, time management courses, but it's how I manage, I was going to say my time, but it isn't my time because, as you say, a day is 24 hours. It's how I manage myself, really, how I manage my day to day things that need doing, my day to day work. And it's an interesting concept, time, how it's wrapped or linked with busyness, um, BUSYNESS, busyness. I'm so busy, I don't have time. Is that true? And how do we quantify busyness? In my opinion, we can all have lots of things going on, which may equal busyness. But if I actually analysed what I actually need to do at any one moment, probably, make a phone call, do an email, write a project. Does that equate to actually being busy? All too often we hear, oh, I'm so busy, I'm so busy, I'm so busy, don't have time. But I always wonder, but what are you actually doing? Could you make better use of the time that you have available in that person's world? So really, and I imagine we're going to upset quite a few people about this, because I do know there have been times, pardon the pun, when I was in banking where there was everything on my desk needed doing and very little time because it was time constraints, payment by this time, check that by that time. And you do have to make sometimes some decisions as to what one prioritizes versus time managing. And then being able to decide the consequences of doing that now versus that now versus that now. But generally, are we really as busy as we really think we are?
Interesting question, isn't it?
Mm.
Because being busy, haven't got time enough,
Mm.
happens at work, it happens in our home life. I mean, time has become a commodity.
Mm-hmm.
In the legal world, you've got something called the billable hour.
Yes.
This is where the hour is split into 10 segments of 6 minutes each, and you will bill X number of segments per client, activity, whatever it is. But you also have enthusiastic virtual assistants, virtual PAs, selling time, because that's what they do.
Mm.
They do the things that you think in your business you haven't got the time to do, or that if you outsource certain activities to somebody else, you will get more time to do what you need to do. The thing is, the virtual PA only has the same 24 hours. So at some point, he or she will be full up as well. But we also, in our home lives, think we haven't got enough time.
Mm.
So we have someone coming in to do the cleaning. We do takeaways. We have this thing called Alexa, who does all sorts of things for us and books this and books that. But what are we spending the time on now that we're not, oh, we're too busy cooking, for example. So we get takeaways. Well, what do we spend the time on when we're not doing the things that we have outsourced? And I don't know. It's very individual. I think I hope somebody will scream at me and say, "Oh, crikey, it's obvious, isn't it? I want to do this, I want to do that, or I want to do nothing."
And that's the thing, isn't it? You know, as you were talking there, if you have a cleaner in, you have someone to cut the grass, you have someone to deliver your food. What are you doing with the time that you would have used doing those things? I don't see, and I still hear a lot of people going, "Oh, I don't have time to take the kids to this club, or don't have time to sit and read the children a bedtime story. I don't have time for this." So what are people doing with this apparently extra time that they've created? Are they having more me time? But we don't hear that. It seems to be, for example, date night is squeezed in to a busy schedule. It's a really interesting concept when people say, "Oh yeah, I don't have time for this, so I've got someone in to do that, but I'm still so busy." Doing what? Yeah. And I do hope that people will enlighten me as to what it is that they are doing. Is it because they're spending more time on these things? But is that beneficial? Surely you'd be doing things that are beneficial to ourselves, or is that beneficial, spending time on that? I don't know. It's something I don't do. So I'm baffled.
And then you get some people where you look at their diary, it's full, especially when they retire. It's full because they are involved in this charity and that charity, or they do these things and those activities. And they're just keeping themselves busy. But they never talk about, I think, being busy. They just like being active, having things to do instead of sitting and staring at a blank wall or the telly all day. So how do we understand what time is, how important it is? It must be a very individual thing. But I think we've also grown up understanding that time is precious.
Yes.
I was a student in the 1980s, and everything was, power and career and big shoulder pads and all that stuff. And I was envious of those people who were in the fast lane, because I wasn't. I was a student. I wasn't out there where it really mattered. Then once I got there, I thought, was that really what I was striving for? So we have to make up our own minds about what we think is busy. But I think it's worth just stopping and thinking for a time. What am I doing with my time? When I say I'm busy, does it mean I've got lots on my mind, or does it mean I have to do everything at the same time?
Yeah.
And if you think you have to do everything at the same time, it's probably not right. And I know I don't want to go over time on this. So I think we have to do a hard stop
Yes.
brutally to not waste people's time.
Mhm.
And hopefully they will find time to give us their opinion.
I think it'd just be interesting for people just to pause for a moment and think, what am I doing? Am I busy? If I am busy, what am I doing? And thinking about, am I really busy? You know, I've got a list here of all the things that I have on my list to do today, but are they all need to be done now? Because a lot of them are waiting for someone else to come back to me. So that's not busy. There's things going on, but I'm not busy doing stuff.
Exactly.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting.
Thank you. Thank you so much for spending time watching us talk about time, and we look forward to your comments. Take care now.
Yes. See you later. Bye-bye.